My name is Alexander Thomas, and I work as a salesperson at a mid-sized beer company. Alexander sounds manly, but it's not enough to make up for my shyness, which has been with me since childhood. Even in college, I was known as an introvert. I finally got hired at my current company after failing a number of interviews. I wasn't particularly fond of beer, but after 5 years of being a mediocre salaryman, this is where I ended up. But then, an opportunity came my way. For some reason, the manager of a company that runs several convenience stores took a liking to me and gave me a specific task. My boss was ecstatic and sent me off to the negotiations with a pat on the back.
Alexander, the company's fortune rests on your shoulders. You're going to be the man here.
They patted me on the back and sent me off to business meetings. The meeting was scheduled for 8 a.m. due to the other party's convenience, and I walked down the main street after passing through a crowded station on my commute. I was walking down the main street, past a station crowded with commuters. As I was waiting at a traffic light, a little boy jumped out from between the people waiting at the light on the other side of the street and into the crosswalk. "Look out!" I quickly turned away. The sound of several cars braking suddenly echoed through the area, and I could hear the rustle of people. When I gently opened my eyes, I saw a woman with long hair, holding a boy protectively in her arms, lying on the ground. The car stopped just short of the woman's head.
"What the hell are you doing, you idiot?"
I heard the driver yell. The boy, crying, slipped out of the woman's arms and ran to the woman, who appeared to be his mother, but the woman who saved the boy did not move. At that moment, the traffic light turned green, and I ran to her side. "Are you okay?" I was about to say, and I froze. The woman lying in front of me was wearing what is called a gang trench coat. On the back of her gang member's trench coat was written "Angels" in vermilion, and the trench coat is torn to shreds. This is a bad guy if I get involved with him. The woman's face, which had not moved even at which, was smeared with blood here and there. She must have been hit. Is there anyone who can help me? I looked around, but everyone seemed to be oblivious. The lights started blinking, so I carried him to the sidewalk. At that moment, the woman groaned and opened her eyes. "Are you all right?" I asked fearfully, and the woman asked in a muffled voice.
"Is the child?"
"That boy. Oh, that boy. He is all right. His mother took him safely."
That's good.
Then she closed her eyes again. At that moment, I was so mad at myself. I don't know who this person is, but even after all this, she is still worried about that boy. And yet, me, blown away by my hesitation, I immediately called an ambulance on my phone. I take off my jacket and put it over the woman's shoulders. "The ambulance will be here soon. Pull yourself together."
Don't do anything.
The woman tries to shake off my hand. I'm not sure what to do. "Just do as I say." The woman opened her eyes as if startled by my yell. Our eyes met for the first time. I thought the woman laughed a little, but then she closed her eyes again. After a while, I heard the sirens of an ambulance. I got in the car with her, but the incident was so unusual that I had forgotten all about the business meeting. It was only after the woman was carried away on a stretcher at the hospital that I remembered. I hurriedly called my business partner and apologized to the manager in charge. Of course, I told him why.
"I see. You were helping people and forgot about the business meeting."
His gentle voice scared me. "Yes, sir. I am so sorry. I'll be right there."
"Oh, it doesn't matter. Please stay with her. That's a very nice thing to do. No wonder you forgot about our dealings."
No.
"It's good to know we're not number one on your list of priorities. No, it's really a noble gesture."
I stared in amazement at the abruptly disconnected phone call. I didn't have the courage to call back. I called the company and reported it. Of course, they were furious and unilaterally hung up on me as well. I am done. At best, I'll be transferred. At worst, I'll be fired. As I sat in my chair in a daze, unable to think of anything, a nurse came out of the treatment room.
"We're done. The patient wants to talk to you. Please come in."
I got up slowly and entered the treatment room. A woman covered in bandages was lying on a cot with N4 in her arm.
I heard you.
I turned my head to see what she was talking about.
You've been leaving your important work behind and just hanging out with me? You meddlesome son of a bitch.
I was a little miffed to realize that she had heard my desperate apology on the phone. You don't say that to a man who saved your life.
What? How could I die from such an injury?
I was first of all miffed at her cocky tone. Then, the woman suddenly got up and bowed to me.
I would like to thank you once again. My name is Stephanie Jones. I am the president of Angels, and I've caused you a lot of trouble this time. If there is anything I can do, please let me know.
The woman who introduced herself as Stephanie looked at me with a mysterious expression on her face. No. You were the one who had such a serious injury, and you jumped out to save the child. I am impressed.
Call me Stephanie. It's no big deal. I was just doing my job.
Well, I was just doing my job too. We smiled at each other. When he smiled, Stephanie suddenly looked very young. She was about 16 or 17 years old. How did you get hurt like that? I asked what had been bothering me for a long time. Stephanie shrugs.
If the president of the ladies was injured, it had to be a fight, right? We were tricked into a fight by the hostile genus. I took the bait to get my friends out of there, and they took it out on me without hesitation.
She bit his lip in frustration.
I make sure they are going to pay for this.
She muttered. You girls shouldn't get into fights. You'll worry your parents. Stephanie looked at me with a shocked look on her face and then started laughing out loud.
My parents are happy that I am the head of the gang family. After all, my father is a man of the underworld. He is all for his daughter getting stronger. My father would kill me if I didn't.
I felt a chill down my back as I watched Stephanie continue to laugh. I decided not to get involved any further. I'm glad to hear that you weren't hurt too badly. I'm going back to the office. As I turned my back to run away, she said,
Wait for me. I'll pay you back someday, I promise. I'll be there for you when you're in trouble. Give me your card.
She said to me threateningly, so I couldn't say no thank you. I don't want anything more to do with you. And I gave her my business card. Stephanie kept it carefully in his heart.
Thank you, Alexander. I will never forget you.
The smile on her face was dazzlingly beautiful. After that, I was not transferred or fired, but I was relegated to an off-duty position. I was relegated to a department called the document sorting section, which is full of old people, and I sorted through documents every day. I shake my head and wonder if my life would have been completely different if I had left Stephanie behind and headed for a business meeting. No matter how many times I had to start over, I still wouldn't have left her alone. It was the only moment in my life when I could muster up some real courage. At the very least, I want to live my life proud of that. That is why I did not want to regret this moment. Then, I would just do my best in the environment I was given. If I really hate it, I can always look for another job. I thought I would show them that I had the guts to do so, and I worked day after day in an indifferent manner. 3 years passed in that manner before I realized it. Thanks to my own hard work, I am now a section chief. Of course, the section chief of the materials management section.
Did you hear that, section chief?
Lucas, an old employee, put a cup of coffee on my desk and started talking.
I heard that the sparkling wine we just released is not so good. I hear it's bad.
What do you mean, it's bad?
We launched it with the whole company, but it doesn't seem to be selling at all. We were promised a deal with a major bar chain, but it was canceled at the last minute.
Is that so?
Yeah, the sales guys seem to be spending every day running around doing whatever they can, but it doesn't seem to be working. It's the wrong time, isn't it?
Lucas nodded and returned to his desk. By bad timing, he was probably referring to the fact that it coincided with the release of a new wine marketed to women by one of us's leading winemakers. Of course, it's a bad time for a beer company to make a wine that's all the rage, right? I looked down at my paperwork, remembering my old days in sales. Some time later, I was summoned by the sales manager. I thought it must be some kind of mistake, but I showed up at the first sales department anyway. All the familiar faces looked at me at once. I involuntarily flinched at the intensity of their gazes. What is it? Did I do something? It's been 3 years since I left here. I don't think there's anything I can be reprimanded for now.
Section Chief Alexander. Oh no, I'm sorry you had to come all the way here.
Smiling and laughing, my former boss tapped me on the shoulder. I don't think he's the same guy who trashed me in front of everyone after I failed at a business meeting.
No, I have a client today that I really want Section Chief Alexander to meet. You know.
Customer.
I always thought you were a very capable man, but it seems my eyes were not mistaken. No, it's a real pleasure.
I suppressed the urge to ask, what? I'd love to know when you got that idea.
Come this way. Our guest is waiting for you.
It was getting creepy to see him hurriedly leading me to the reception room as if he were a waitress at a high-class restaurant. I knocked on the door and heard a woman's voice saying, "Come in." I said, "Excuse me," and entered the room. A young woman in a suit was sitting on the sofa. She looked at me and stood up.
It's been a while, Alexander.
The woman bowed her head in a snappy tone. Who is it? I stared at her, wondering who she was. At that moment, the events of 3 years ago came back to me vividly. Stephanie.
Yes. You remember me, don't you? I'm so glad.
The smile on her face was the same as the last time I saw her. With her hair tied up in a chignon and dressed in a white suit, Stephanie had completely transformed into an adult woman.
This is the sales manager of Aegis, which runs a number of clubs in LA. She has expressed an interest in using our sparkling wine at all of the Aegis clubs.
The general manager said with a face that looked as if it was about to melt. I still had no idea what was going on.
I guess I startled you, didn't I? Aegis is a company owned by my father, and I was allowed to help him with his business after I turned 18. You know what I mean by things.
Stephanie said with a mischievous smile. Perhaps he was referring to his biker gang days.
And you know, they want you, Alexander, to be in charge of our business dealings. Of course, you'll do it right.
Without hearing my reply, the department manager turned to Stephanie.
Alex was a subordinate whom I had a special affection for, you know. I'm the one who taught him the job from the very beginning. No, really, I'm as happy as if it were me.
The director laughed. How dare you say that? I swore at him in mind. Then the next moment,
Well said, you raccoon uncle.
Stephanie said with a smile. The director's laughter stopped.
You guys have been pushing him out of the office, haven't you? You guys were kicking him out of the office because he abandoned an important business meeting to help others. This is a great company. If it weren't for Alexander, who would do business with a company like this?
Despite his tone of voice, Stephanie was several times scarier than back then, as he never broke into a smile. The general manager froze completely.
I'll buy the wine from you, but if you want us to continue doing business with you, you will have to work harder. I tasted the wine, but if that wine is actual one, it is no good for our club. First of all, you need to learn how to look at people. If you don't have good people, you can't do a good job.
The place froze. I glanced at the manager, who was staring at Stephanie with a face that looked as if he was about to collapse. I tried my best to stifle a laugh. Stephanie's white suit looked like the white trench coat she was wearing at that time. Stephanie, standing poised and composed, had the dignity of a commander-in-chief.
Alexander, this is my way of repaying you. I have repaid my debt to you. Now it's up to you.
He held out his right hand to me, and I returned the grip without hesitation. Of course, I will do my best. It was the pride of my life to be able to save you at that time. That's why I made it this far.
I look forward to it.
It was funny to see the director looking at us shackily as we shook hands. After that, I was back in sales as the Aegis representative. Stephanie and the president, who was Stephanie's father, were very strict with me, but that made it all the more rewarding. If I had continued to believe that I was only getting the job out of courtesy, I would have become despicable. But thanks to Stephanie's equal attitude, I was able to believe in my own abilities.
Alexander, lately you've become more manly.
I laugh when a junior colleague says this to me. I wonder if I have finally become a man worthy of my name. I was happy to see that I seemed to be growing up more and more when I was in contact with Stephanie. To me, Stephanie was more manly than any other man, and I admired her. One day, when I said that, she would hit me as hard as she could. I have a treasured image of Stephanie's angry, sulky face in my heart.